organization of our files. So today we're going to have a bit of a focus on OneDrive and the Microsoft tools. So if you're thinking, what's OneDrive? Okay, let's start at the beginning. I used to work with a colleague who would often say to me, can you help me with this file? Go, yep, sure, no problem. Where is it sitting? We take one look at a desktop and it would just be covered in files and folders scattered everywhere. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. If that works for you, that's great. But if you have all of those files sitting just on your desktop, then you risk losing everything if your machine crashes. So 2 reasons. Number 1, we want to organize our files and folders so we can find work easily, but we also want to be a little bit secure in the knowledge that we know that we're not going to lose all of that amazing work that we've got on our device if our device crashes, which we know happens often. So let's have a look at how we can be a little bit organized if we are working in a Microsoft ecosystem with our files and folders. So I'm just going to share with you a little document that we have some tips and tricks for you. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen and hopefully this is going to work nice and efficiently. And here we are with our little tips poster for today. So here we have 4 tips for staying organized in OneDrive. Now, tip number 1, as I've just said, is back up your files to your OneDrive. So your OneDrive sits inside your Microsoft ecosystem. So you log in, you go to portal.office.com, log in with your Microsoft sign-in, get yourself signed into Office, and then click on the OneDrive button and you'll come to a space that looks like this. Now you'll notice in OneDrive that all of your folders sit at the top and all of your files sit underneath. Everything is organized nice and alphabetically. So if you're new to OneDrive, or if working with OneDrive is something that you haven't done a lot of, just think really carefully about the folder structure that you're going to use. You can have folders inside folders inside folders, but one of my great colleagues, Sam, often says to me, if you name a folder and somebody is looking for a file and they see the name of your folder, is it really clear and explicit to that person what the content of that folder is? So think really carefully about what your content is. Now, also it could be, you see I've got some numerical folders sitting here, 2018, 2019, and it could be that we want to change the folder structure. Now, it is alphabetical. How do we change something that's alphabetical? So we need to rename this. So if I right click on my folder here, you'll notice up the top, I get a menu and I've got rename, or I can come down and I have rename here. Now I can rename by putting my cursor in front of that number and let's just go 01 and click save. So I'm going to force that folder to move. So you see my 2019 has now moved to the front because I've put the number 1 on the front of it. So using numbers to rename your folders can help just to shift that organization a wee bit. The other thing you can do is use visual symbols to rename your folders. Quite often, especially when we get lots of folders, can be quite tricky just to scan through and find the ones you want. So if we use a visual symbol, it can help us to locate folders really quickly. Same thing, we just rename that the same way as we did when we put a numerical number in front of this folder up here. We just right click, let's do it on this one. We come down to rename, we put our cursor where we want it to be, and we put an emoji or something in the front. Now, if you're a Chrome web browser user, there are plenty of Chrome extensions where it'll allow you to add an emoji in. But what you can also do, if you are on a PC, you can just hit your Windows key and the full stop, and it brings up an emoji keyboard straight away for you. Click on it. It should drop that in a moment. There we go. And rename it with a symbol and click save. So on the Windows keyboard, again, that was just the Windows key and the full stop, and it brings you up that emoji keyboard. If you are on a MacBook, you can do exactly the same with your Control, Command, and Spacebar and that will bring you up with a emoji keyboard as well. So really nice way to be able to create visual symbols that make it nice and easy for you to spot your folders that you need. Now, you may be a OneDrive person already, and you may be looking at this and you may be thinking, that OneDrive looks slightly different to mine. Up in the very top right-hand corner, you have a little drop-down arrow where you can change the way that your OneDrive is organized. You can see that mine has tiles. I'll just make that a little bit bigger so you can see it. I've got the tiles selected, but you can have a compact list or a list. Interestingly enough, most of the people I work with tend to be list people, and so they have their OneDrives organized like this. So you can see here when it was last modified, who modified it, the file size, and the sharing permissions, which you don't see when you're in the grid view. But what you do see when you're in the tile view is you see how many documents you have inside that folder, and you see a little thumbnail of what your files are. So for me, I quite like that visual. So completely up to you which way around you do it. So let's have a look back at our tips. So back up your files to your OneDrive for that security and to speed up your machine and to clear off your hard drive. Number 2, think about your folder structure and your naming conventions. And just here we have the little tips for you on how to get those emojis if you would like them nice and quickly. Now, tip number 3, use your details pane. Quite often again, if I'm working with a file or a folder and I think, did I share that or didn't I share it? So a really nice quick way is you can come to a file or a folder. So I'm just going to select this one here. And I did have a little play with it before. It was called Excel document. When it's actually, again, we can select the circle in the corner to select it, and it brings up our menu pane at the top here. And in the very top right-hand corner, you'll see a tiny little circle with an eye in it. And when you hover over it, it says open the details pane. Now, I do realize that my cursor is covering some of that. I can also right-click on here, and I have details down the bottom here. So if you're a right-click person for speed, then you can just go straight to details, and it opens the detail pane for that folder or that file that you selected. From here, I can see who has access straight away. I can manage that access. I can stop sharing if I want to. I can click on the share button and I can change the sharing permissions all from here. Okay. And I can also see any activity that's going on with that document or that file or that folder. So it's a really nice, quick, easy way to be able to get a lot of information about a file or a folder quickly. So let's come back to our tip here. So that was tip number 3, to use your detail pane. Tip number 4 is to think about time savers. Now, I just talked about right-clicking and being able to right-click and being able to bring up these panes. So I can right-click and here are all my options here. So the more organized we can be, the more time we can save, then that can help us to navigate within our OneDrive. We can also use keyboard shortcuts. And on our tip here, we've put some of the more common keyboard shortcuts. Now, I love this top one. It says Command or Control. If you're on a Mac, you're going to be using the Command key. If you're on a PC, you're going to be using the Control key. But this is going to jump you between your tabs, your open tabs, so long as you have no more than 9 tabs open. So at the moment, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is my 6th tab that this little sharing document is on. So if I hit Control 7, it jumps me to my OneDrive. Control 6 jumps me back to my tip window. So we can jump between 1 and 9 open tabs by just hitting the Control key and the number of your tab. So it's a nice quick way to be able to move around. If you're somebody who uses a lot of hyperlinks, Control K is going to bring up your link menu. So which is exactly what I did here. I just popped our website in for anybody who's interested in checking out using Technology Better's website. I just highlighted it and I just hit Control K and it linked it for me. So a nice quick way to be able to link. Control Shift T will open the last tab that you shut down. So I'm working on a document or a file, I shut the tab and I think, oh damn, I didn't mean to shut that. I can just go Control-Shift-T and it reopens the last tab. Now, if you were just checking out the latest news and your boss comes along behind you, you probably don't want to reopen that tab that you just shut down that you shouldn't have been on. But Control-Shift-T, quick way to quick way to reopen the last tab that you shut down. So there we have it this morning, 4 quick tips for you in using OneDrive. If you would like a copy of this little PDF here, you just pop utb.fyi/OD for tips into your URL bar at the top here, and it will open a copy for you. It'll take you to our website if you want to check out some more about using technology better. And right down at the bottom here, I'm going to make my screen a little bit bigger so that we can see it. We have a link to, getting started with OneDrive course that you might be interested in checking out as well. So hopefully there's something there that's been useful for you this morning. Enjoy your cup of tea. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again